You're listening to Hypnotically Connected with Michele Guzy, only on LA Talk Radio.
Welcome to Hypnotically Connected. I am your host, Michele Guzy, the Mind Coach, and I am so excited to be here for my very first show with LA Talk Radio. And I just want to say thank you so much to everybody here at the station. Sam, he's amazing. Ronan, who helped me get everything set up. And for everybody else that here right now is listening and watching us on LA Talk Radio. So this show, Hypnotically Connected, and I have my wonderful guest, Nick Newmont from Mainstream Metaphysics, is all about being able to talk about the news, the views, and of course, reviewing all different types of healing modalities, mind, body, emotions, and spirit. We're going to talk about the conventional all the way to the metaphysical, to the alternative, because your life, your mind, and how everything is happening within your world matters to us. And I say that everything is a state of hypnosis, which is why we are all hypnotically connected. And before we talk with Nick, just want to give you a little background about myself. So I'm a hypnotherapist. I've been in business in private practice for about 30 years, and I specialize in behavior modification, life coaching, as well as neuro-linguistic programming and past life regression, all of the cool stuff. And I went through all different types of training to have myself be right here, right now in this moment, being able to experience not only changes for myself, but for my clients, but being able to share this knowledge and information, because we're going through so many changes on this planet right now, and here in society, especially in Los Angeles, we have so much going on, and I know the stress levels are through the roof, and we have a lot of fears. So with all of our background, with Nick and myself, we want to be able to give you some information that's going to help you right now. So as a hypnotherapist, my office is in Woodland Hills, and I see clients from children all the way up to the adults. And I help people not only reduce the stress, but help you also deal with relationships, help you with your career, being able to build up that confidence and self-esteem. And as a mind coach, it's mind, body, emotions, and spirit. It's all about creating that connection. So I'm excited to be here tonight. Nick, I'm so excited to have you. I've been on a couple shows with him already.
Right.
And you're on Tuesday nights at 8 o'clock. We have Mainstream Metaphysics. And Nick is not only a hypnotherapist, but you're also a channeler.
Right.
You're also dealing with astrology, numerology with the Newmont Center, of course, and so many other things. So welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. And first of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
You deserve this. You should do this. You know, as kudos to you. You know, when we go on to LA Talk Radio's Facebook page, we can track how many views that we get. And the last two shows that you did with me, the viewership was through the ceiling. So thank you to all of you that watched. I said to Michele before we started, I don't know if it's Michele or me or what it is, but
I think it's both of us. We're kind of cute. Look at that right there. We got the cuteness going on. We got the information.
No, the viewership and the responses I got, you know, were really good. And yep, and the more folks like yourself that have shows like this that give good, solid, truthful, meaty material and help people help themselves, you know, the more people are going to tune in, because people are at a time right now, they want to know. They want to know. People want information.
They want information, and that's what we do. We're basically being able to give this information in such a way that it's going to not only inspire but educate you and help you kind of think out of the box.
Right.
Because I know when people think about hypnotherapist or they hear the word hypnosis, they get a different idea. They think it's mind control or, you know, just being able to, you know, cluck like a chicken and bark like a dog. but what we are is we're behavioral therapists. And hypnosis is just a state of suggestibility. So with the show Hypnotically Connected, that's what I want to put out there into the world, that we are all in a state of suggestibility. And you can be suggestible to people around you right now. I know you can be suggestible to your family, to your friends, to the media, to the news, even magazines that people are looking at. but we're also suggestible to the environment, to the weather, how we're feeling, how we're thinking. And when we can take this suggestibility and shift it into more of a positive state, because you can change your states, you can change how you're thinking and feeling, then this is going to be probably the most effective that we can be for you. So let us help you with our information as hypnotherapists.
Right.
But Nick, what I wanted to know, tell a little bit more about your background. We've known each other for going on almost 30 years.
1996 we met.
1996. And we met at the Hypnosis Motivation Institute, the College of Hypnotherapy, when I was one of the instructors there. And Nick came aboard and started learning about hypnotherapy. And we just kind of hit it off. And,
Right.
and it's blossomed from there. But tell me about your background, because you are probably the most fascinating man that I've ever met.
Thank you.
And I love working with you, and I also go do work with Nick whenever I have things that are going on in my life. I need to get clearing or get more balanced. And I just find everything that you do so top-notch at the Newmont
Thank you.
Center
Thanks.
that I want to bring it out to the public. So Nick, take it away for a moment.
Thank you. Well, first of all, you have an interesting story about doing past life regressions when you were a little kid, those are fun stories. So according to my mother, she could tell that I had precognitive abilities from when I was little, and things I would do and say, and those abilities would come and go, as I was growing. And then when I got into my mid-30s and I went through big life changes and big life shifts, those abilities came on with a vengeance, and then I started meeting a lot of people that were very metaphysical or very spiritual, that became influences, and I always had this one eye on the metaphysical arts, the predictive arts, from when I was younger. I was fascinated, but of course I didn't understand astrology or palmistry, but I knew I was attracted to it. And then I met teachers, and I formally went to school. The 90s for me, and part of that was HMI, and I went to another school before HMI, by the way.
I remember that. That. Yeah. So you had a little bit of background already before you came to us.
But the 90s for me was all about school. And it was a period where, at that time, I was single until 1999, and I studied everything, and formally. And if you're going to study the metaphysical arts, please take classes at a center. Yes. Don't just read a book. Read a book, yes, but study, and that's what I did. And I had incredible teachers and mentors for a decade, and brought me to here. And yes, I am an astrologer, a numerologist, a palmist, a card reader. I am, again, a hypnotherapist, and I do a type of energy healing work that we call sentient healing, which is fifth dimensional soul level healing, which is a complete auric and chakra reconstruction.
Which is amazing.
So it's fun to be on the receiving end, and it's fun to do.
Yes.
So we can recreate on the soul level, even into the etheric DNA. So it's like, as you and I have said before, we don't really heal, we don't cure, but we can affect a lot of change in people's lives.
And that's, the modality of hypnotherapy and, of course, energy healing. It spans so many different genres with it. I know when I go in and work with Nick, he does such amazing things. He puts these, what do we call them? Crystals?
The chakra plates.
Chakra plates, literally these chakra plates, these beautiful crystals and stones all over the body. And your body is just vibrating with this energy. But not only that, you're also checking just energy fields, and
Right.
you are connecting with guides. We call them spirit guides,
Right.
and possibly angels, and those.
All of the above.
All of
Yes.
the above. And so, people, whether it's real or not, it's all up to you. It's a belief system, but I know that when I do that work with you, it literally just changes my life, and it sets me into a new pattern of being able to open up and release some of the negatives that are there, because we have a lot of negative associations. We're bombarded with so much negative information right now that
Right,
we
all
can
the time.
feel it. And it helps me not only feel better physically, mentally, but emotionally. It just kind of shifts me into a good place with that.
And it also creates clarity in the decision-making process, too. Mm-hmm. That's part of it. All of a sudden, it's like, oh, yeah, I got it.
So hypnotherapy, let's kind of break it down. I actually started doing hypnosis, believe it or not, when I was about 9 years old, and I grew up in Alaska. Hello, everybody in Alaska. All my family's up there. And I was with a friend of mine, and we found some books on past life regression. And we started reading those books, and we were able to just naturally do past life regressions on each other. And what was so fun is that I remember taking these books and in my house going down to the darkest room in the house, which was the bathroom downstairs, and turning off all of the lights and lighting the candles. And I would put a little sign on the door that said, "Do not enter, past lives in progress," so my brothers wouldn't come in there. And we started doing past lives. We'd sit down and I'd have my friend lay down on some pillows, and I'd kind of rock her head back and forth, and I'd count from 100 down to 0. And when we got down to 0, I didn't know I was doing what we call hypnotic inductions, or just putting somebody into a state of suggestibility, connecting with them. And by the time we would get down to 0, we would be in a past life. And this is 4th grade. A lot of the stuff that we were seeing, we did not learn in school yet. We did not have the internet. We very rarely went to the movies up in Alaska because we were camping and fishing and fishing and fishing. We do a lot of fishing up there. And, we didn't have the books and the media that was available. So we would go down and see things that were there. And we got so good at it, we would keep little journals and diaries of all of the information. But then what started happening is that we would be in class and the teacher would say something, and then I would raise my hand and I'd say, "That's not what happened." And the teacher would say, "How would you know?" And I would say, "Because I was there. I was hanging out with Cleopatra. We were like this." So I was in the principal's office all the time.
I'm sure.
And we didn't tell too many people after that, but I do remember growing up that I also had just natural abilities. I was really connected with animals. I was really connected with nature, and I almost had a sixth sense. And I know you see and hear things.
Right.
And I'm not able to do that, so to speak, but I have that knowing. What is that called again?
Well,
when
you
have
have
that knowing?
clairsentience. It's the feeling of it.
The feeling of it, so that recognition. And, sometimes I would have dreams to where I would predict things, so it was almost having premonitions of what was going to happen. But I also got really, really good at reading people, which helped me when I started learning about neuro-linguistic programming. And then I moved to Los Angeles when I was about 19 years old. And I'm aging myself right now, so that was in 1986. And that was when Shirley MacLaine was huge. Do you remember that book? She had that book, Out on the Limb, came out, and then she had her TV show on that. And my friend Kelly, actually, and we watched that show, and that was it. That opened up so many more doors for us. And here in Los Angeles, we have everything available to us. We have the bookstores. The Bodhi Tree was here.
Right.
We had a lot of metaphysical centers and schools. And then I found out about the Hypnosis Institute when I was about 23, 24 years old. And I didn't know there was a school for hypnotherapy. And that was it. And I became the youngest teacher there and therapist there and just started the ball rolling. But I've have that experience. I know when I see my clients that I may pick up a lot of information from them, but I want them to be able to do the work. I know sometimes people come in and they think with hypnosis we can just snap our fingers and just make it all go away, but we can't cure, we don't heal. We just allow your mind to help you in the fastest way possible. And I know that we're going to talk about just different states of suggestibility and how the conscious and subconscious mind works today as well. So,
right.
Now, with everything going on, especially, and I do not want to get too much into this with the coronavirus, I wanted to find out from you, because of the messages that you receive, is this something that you have predicted or information that was coming to you before? Did you know this was kind of happening?
Well, I knew there was not the virus itself, but I knew from back last summer, and I talked about this on last night's show, that ahead of time, astrologers are looking at months and years down the road.
Yes.
Especially when we're talking about major planets, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. because they stay in position a lot longer, the bigger planets, because they're further away from the Earth. And so we also know from studies that certain planets go into position with each other every so many years or decades, actually. So there's significant things that we look for years ahead of time. So this past January, the planet Saturn, the planet Pluto conjuncted, or were on top of each other astrologically, and that happens in history roughly 34 to 38 years. And so it's extremely significant. And I call that a karmic transformation. Now, when you think of Pluto and transformation, it is sort of like the death of and the rebirth of. And karma with the planet Saturn means it's real, it's coming from the environment, and it's something that's going to have to be dealt with.
Okay.
Now, given that it happened in the sign of Capricorn, this means that it has an effect on the public. It's very noteworthy, has an extreme effect on economics. So every time Saturn and Pluto come into alignment with each other, and you can go back to 1982, 1944, early 1900s, there's always a recessionary period. And I have been calling for this since last year.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
And I've been telling people as we got into 2020, be conservative, wait till this plays out. And so as we sit here today, this week, we now have this stellium of Mars, Jupiter, and Pluto all on top of each other within a couple degrees. These planets are really close.
Wow.
Well, this creates a lot of intensity. And Mars always fires things up. Fortunately, Jupiter will make things better. Okay.
So this is not like a Mercury retrograde
Oh,
type
God,
of thing.
no.
This is far beyond that.
This is way
far
beyond it, and it's very significant. And so this, because of where this configuration sits in the chart of the country and in the chart of the New York Stock Exchange, I knew that this was going to create a big downturn in finances, economics, and stocks.
So what does that mean? Does that mean we need to start buying a bunch of stocks right now? Because I know everybody's selling it. Everything is going down.
I would wait on that, because as we go deeper we get into April, and Jupiter starts to pick up speed, it's going to align with Saturn, all right? Which means that one way wants to expand, one way wants to contract. And then when we get into early December, well, there's an alignment like this in September and another one right after the election. So what that also means is when we get into November, we could have something happen in the elections, because it's not just presidential. There's different gubernatorial, senatorial. There could be, and probably will be, a lot of people that get elected that were like the dark horse or no one ever thought. And the other thing about Saturn and Pluto, and so we have to put the words into English, otherwise people are going, what's he talking about?
What's he talking about? Yes.
When Saturn and Pluto align like this, we find out where the bodies are buried. Things get revealed that have been buried. They come up to the surface, and everyone's going, oh my God, I never saw that. Okay? So, and also when Saturn and Pluto come together, especially in Capricorn, it's cold. It doesn't care. All right? It feels harsh. And that's what things feel like right now. They feel very harsh. This will give way. Now, where's the good news in all this? Well, we are days away from Saturn leaving Capricorn for the past 2.5 years and moving into Aquarius, which means we're going from a lot of dark, we're beginning to go into light, okay? Saturn in Aquarius will lighten it up, because Saturn's heavy. Saturn is karma, fate, destiny, lessons learned, obstacles, disappointments. Putting it into Aquarius, which is Uranian energy, means that governmental bodies, because Saturn rules big business government, will become more humanitarian.
Okay.
It will look like the people that don't care now start to care.
So things are going to shift around a little bit.
Yes, there is going to be a shift.
So lessons being learned right now.
Right.
Big lessons for everybody.
Huge lessons. It's karma.
It's karma.
Right.
But let's talk about karma.
Oh, one other thing
Yes.
about the astrological thing. And that thought went just like that. No, there is a shift with this.
Yeah. So what's so interesting though is when we talk about astrology and how you are so well versed with this because you've been doing it since the beginning of time. Actually, he's been doing it since a past life for a long, long time.
Yeah.
How does that work though? How are you able to communicate and have this understanding with the planets and the alignment and all of that, and how it dictates what's going on here on this planet? How is that even possible that you have this knowledge?
Well, it's a science, first of all.
Okay.
And just the same way people have to memorize the symbols for all the elements, all those glyphs that represent the planets, the signs and all that, you get to the point where you know that. You just know it.
Yeah.
And it's like studying a foreign language or hieroglyphics, and all those planets in combination mean something. But it's also mathematical because you have to understand angles. What is a square? What is a trine? What's an opposition? You have to know that. And I have been doing it a long time. And it's overlays. Like when I teach astrology, it's done in layers, in simplicity. And then it builds into the complications. And it's something to be learned over a lifetime. You don't just take an astrology course and go, I can do that. Because there's way too much.
No, there's a lot to it. So,
right.
But
it's fascinating.
It's fascinating, and everything that you have been studying and researching, though, is basically the information that's coming out right now. This is something that, is it like you have predictions for this because of how it's all in alignment, and you kind of knew this was happening?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Sure. Look, there's one thing I want to say as I look at things astrologically, and people are going to go, what? As fast as it seems like the coronavirus has come out of nowhere, and we do have to heed the warnings and use common sense,
Yes.
but it's not going to last for months and months and months. As it came in, it's going to go out.
That's what I'm thinking. It just came in. It's here for a minute. I know that we have a lot of emotions wrapped up with
Right.
this right now. I know just going to trying to go to the grocery store, 8 o'clock in the morning, there's a line out there almost a half hour to an hour just to try to get eggs and so forth.
Right.
Because it's creating that panic and that mass hysteria. And just remember, that is a state of hypnosis. But it's here. It's not going to last forever. And I agree with you that I think very quickly this is going to be moving on, and that we have learned a lesson. So tell me about how you feel with the karma, though.
All right. So the concept of karma is actions and consequences, and we all have karmic lessons. And whether in love or health or money, whatever it is. But karmic lessons are not, exercises in futility. Karmic lessons are, once you really learn it and get through it, then all of a sudden you go from lacking or the problem into having, and it's a solution. And that's why we want to work through karma, because something that could be so disappointing could turn out to be so rewarding.
And I kind of think this is a positive situation, because I always take a look at things and try to shift it into a positive. I know a lot of families are staying at home right now, and I know it's difficult with the children and with jobs and so forth. But families are staying at home. A lot of people are going out, going for walks or taking some bike rides. They're maybe checking in a little bit more with their loved ones and remembering that, hey, I just wanted to reach out and say, I'm thinking about you. So I know that it's creating a connection.
Right. Just like when in our physical body, say we get a cold or whatever, say, you work and work and work, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, I don't feel well. Well, when our body doesn't take a time out, our body gives us a timeout.
That's right.
Right? Your body's going to take you down because your body knows better than your conscious mind, your brain does. And so this is sort of a timeout for humanity. And we don't know weeks and months or years down the road as we look back on this exactly yet what that is. But we need to just kind of stop and pause and be humans and be humanitarian, be compassionate.
because we get so caught up in, I think, a lot of the technology. It was so fascinating. The other day I was just walking down the street and there was a guy and he was on his cell phone and he was texting and maybe looking at social media, whatever. And I'm watching him walk down the street and he was not looking. He ran right into a light post. Right in front of him, just walked right into it. And we sometimes now, because of social media, which is absolutely amazing and wonderful, but we get so caught up in focusing on that we're not aware of what's going on with the environment.
And virtual reality is not reality.
Exactly. And we're not being emotional anymore. We're not having the social connection. So maybe this is to help people connect more.
Sure, because now, because of their quarantining people, people are feeling this depersonalization and no interaction going on. People are going,
this is what it's really like.
Right.
Because I also have thought, anytime that I saw a sci-fi movie growing up, I always knew that when I watched that movie that was actually going to be a reality soon. So growing up watching Star Trek and Beam Me Up, Scotty, and I always knew that was going to be happening, because if we receive that information, somehow it comes through as a download to our directors and artistic people, and comes through in our movies and TV shows that this has already been happening. So this is a reality right now, and it's already been out there. You
go back many years ago and the Dick Tracy comics and the two-way wrist radio, and and
you have it right now, Dick Tracy. There he goes.
Yep, and I can actually take calls on my watch, and
I love it. I love it. And then they have the virtual reality.
Right.
And I know you've seen in the movies where they do the computers and the screen and all of that. They don't even have to have it in front. They're just doing it all in there. Well, that's going on right now.
Right.
We have 3D imaging printing. Yeah. So we could send this cup, if we want to, all the way up to the space shuttle. And so it's a reality. Things are a reality. And, that's what this show is about. It's about everything is hypnotically connected. So let's talk a little bit more about the mind and how the mind works. I know you had a graph that you wanted to share. And
this is something you and I know from way back.
Yes.
From HMI, Theory of Mind.
Okay, so hopefully you guys can see that a little bit, and we'll kind of break it down. So, Nick, take it away. How does the mind work?
Well, especially in times like this where people are so fear-based, the part of Theory of Mind that we focus on is the difference between the conscious, which does 12% of what we do. That's how you think and how you analyze and the choices that you make and what you know that you want, versus the subconscious, which does almost 90% of what we do. And that your body is the mouth of the subconscious. Modern memory, everything you've ever experienced, whether you remember it or not, is in there. Motivation is part of the subconscious. But the part that is getting triggered is the fight-flight mechanism.
Yes.
And normally, the environment, which is people, send suggestions into the conscious mind. But when people get all flustered, the critical area, which separates the conscious and the subconscious, basically dissolves and opens up, and that suggestion goes straight into the subconscious and basically pokes or prods the fight-flight mechanism, and then people go into fight, flight, or freeze.
And that's what hypnosis is. So hypnosis is what we call a heightened state of suggestibility. It's when that door opens up. So basically, in the room that we are in right now, if this was your subconscious mind, that door is that critical mind. And your subconscious is designed to protect and filter out all of the information and decide what needs to come in and what needs to go on. But it's all based on your associations. So if people have fear associations already programmed in their subconscious mind, when they have new things like this happening, when they have the news in the media about the virus and so forth, or just anything going on in the world, then that fear association gets triggered a little bit more. It gets activated. So, what we do with hypnosis is we're able to go in and we can desensitize some of these associations that are not working for you, that are not beneficial for you. So we can take those negatives, turn them into the positives. We can take those positives and increase them and make them even stronger. So, but people aren't aware. It's a fight-flight response with that. So you've got a conscious mind and a subconscious mind. And I also tell my clients and everybody that you are in conflict just with your mind. You're really not in conflict with other people. You're really not in conflict with society. You're really not in conflict with anything but your own programming.
Right.
Your own programming. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So much. So when we think about our mind, think about your mind like a cell phone, and you have all of those apps on your cell phone. And those apps came with a lot of your phones, and you may not be aware of it, but some of those apps, like today, my phone all of a sudden was dying because I had apps running in the background, and it was using up all of the battery.
Right.
So I had to plug it in. And if you're not aware of those apps running in the background or your associations running in the background, then it's going to affect you. It's going to create that stress in your life, and your immune system's going to go down.
That's right. And that's your battery.
And that is your battery. So if you don't like an association or an app on your phone, what can you do? You uninstall that. Or on your computer. Your computer only works with you turning it on and working with all of those programs. The computer just can't work all by itself. So remember, your subconscious mind is everything that you've heard, and it's based on association. However, what's kind of a little scary about the subconscious mind is it doesn't think.
No, it just does.
It just does. It doesn't analyze. It doesn't have logic or reason. It's just based on what you identify, associate, and respond. So I, sometimes show my clients, I always ask people, I say, tell me what this object is. And they'll say it's a cup, or they'll say it's a mug, and that is your programming. That's what you've been told, is what you've been taught. But up in Alaska, all of us in Alaska, we call this an igloo. And to me, what's my belief system? This is an igloo.
Right.
And for 19 years, if I've called this an igloo, then this is my association. But then I moved down to Los Angeles, and everybody here is calling this a cup or a mug. I have a conscious state of mind now that says, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe all of us up in Alaska are a little bit crazy because we call this an igloo. But for all of those years, it has been programmed over and over and over and over again, this belief, that it becomes so hard for it to change. And this is what we call homeostasis. And that's the brain's and the mind's innate desire to stay the same. So in order for me to change this from an igloo into a cup, I have to go through that critical mind. Mm-hmm. And that's what hypnosis is. And that's what Nick and I do also with the energy healing and the communication and all of the modalities and methods that we have. We can go down and change this igloo into a cup. So we can change your belief systems very, very quickly with that.
Right. And as we're growing, in the first 15 years of our life, we're programmed by our mother and our father. The first 8, we develop how we learn, how we internalize and externalize, communicate. So it gets to point, the first 8 years, if your mother's a worrier, you're going to be a worrier. Mm-hmm. And from 9 to 15, you learn behavioral cues from your father and your comfort or discomfort in relating to people. So if your father's this real outgoing guy, mm-hmm. you're going to be very comfortable with people. But if the father, is very strict and stoic, then you're going to be somewhat shy or reserved or uncomfortable and warming up to people. So that subconscious script is built in the first 15 years. And so the truth of the matter is the 2 biggest hypnotherapists anybody ever meets in their life are their parents.
Yes, that's it. Your role models. The people that are there with you in your life. And even if it's not your parents, maybe it's your grandparents that raised you, or maybe it was an aunt or an uncle or an older brother or sister. So we model that. One of the shows that I'm going to be talking about and bring some guests on dealing with neuro-linguistic programming, and that is the art of modeling behavior. And I'm sure you know who Tony Robbins is, the big tall guy with the huge teeth. I love him. But Tony Robbins is teaching NLP, and he teaches people to model success. So if you grew up in a family that has a lot of stress and anxiety, things are getting triggered for you right now. And I do have quite a few clients coming in that are in a state of anxiety. They were in that state of fear before, and now it's getting to a heightened level. So we want you to be just so very careful with that. Please contact us, give us a call. I do free phone consultations, and I can help you set up just the right program of what's going to help you. But we need to kind of get those levels back down and desensitize that a little bit so you can function before it turns into, my gosh, I had one client, it turned into what we call agoraphobia. And he got so nervous because of the anxiety of what was happening, this is years ago, that then he couldn't leave the house. And because everything was triggering that state.
Sure.
So we also call hypnosis, when you're in a really suggestible state, a somnambulist state. And when you're somnambulist, you take it all in. You take it all in. Now, somnambulists, though, aren't they also the ones that might be more aware of the energy that's around, or have more of the gifts like you do and abilities?
They're in a different state. In fact, when you know the suggestibility test, that when you score close to the middle, and I do, you use your intuitive mind more versus more right brain or more left brain. So yeah, you're on the intuitive seam more instead of that way or that way.
So let's talk a little bit more about another gift that you have, and that you are able to receive messages.
Right.
And do you call that being a medium? Do you call that being a channel? Or is it a combination of both?
Well, when you're a medium, when you do medium work, it's like you're talking to a guide in the same way I'm talking to you right now. But when you're channeling, you're bringing that spirit down through. And people that have watched me enough or know me that know I channel Merlin, I trans-channel Merlin. So.
And how did Merlin come to you? I just think that's so cool.
Well, I learned working with Merlin through my original teacher in the metaphysical arts. But I also have from past life, I have past life with him. So it's like I'm familiar with him, and I have a strong comfort level with him. But I've been channeling Merlin since like 1995 in there.
So when you go into channel, are you there? Are you hearing the information and the messages, or are you kind of stepped out?
I'm taken into a space, and Merlin just comes in and basically takes over. And when people witness that, they know that it's not me, because I even kind of look different, definitely sound different, and everything kind of changes.
So we have a lot of people sometimes that are out there that may be skeptics or don't quite understand this, or they may say, I know at least, for me with hypnosis, it's against my religion, or it's against my upbringing and so forth, right? You've heard that.
Right.
So what do you say to people when they tell you, that's not possible, because of their belief system, that you can't possibly be channeling, and there's really nothing in reading the stars and astrology, and you can't just put your hands on people and heal them or read the chakras and the energy. Right. So how do you explain that to people?
Well, quite frankly, I don't, because that's not my audience. Yeah. And I'm very blessed with all the people that do come to me for all these years. They know what they're getting into. And I've actually told people, because sometimes people say, oh, I want to send my friend whoever. And I've reminded people that I'm not for everyone. Not everyone is going to be open to that experience, even though it's very benevolent. So, I remind people, just know who your audience is before you refer them. But I don't get I don't get challenged like that.
Yeah.
Because I don't attract those people.
So it's like I said, it's just a modality.
Right.
It's just a modality of what we do, and just the word hypnosis, if we take it away, just put it aside and just think suggestibility, we're all in that suggestible state, and we're all born with these gifts. I know some little children who can take a look at you and, just see, people that have transitioned on. Oh, there's grandma. Grandma's been passed away for 10 years, but they see grandma, or they see your chakras and your auras around. And I mean, how is that possible? And then when does that stop?
Well, it doesn't need to stop. When kids come in from the other side, for a while, they're very fresh, and they don't have all those filters, and they're not indoctrinated with all the left brain earth lessons of physics and gravity and all that. They don't know that. They just know what they experience. And they're not playing with make-believe friends. They're really having experiences with spirits and beings. So but they just haven't been indoctrinated yet and conditioned to get that out of them.
So when you have children, those of you that have small children, and they may come to you and they say, oh, I see this, or I have, these dreams, or like you said, I'm seeing, here's my imaginary friend, or maybe it's a little bunny rabbit, or maybe it is, an Indian that they're communicating with. Instead of saying, oh, that's not possible, or that's not real, to be more open with that and share. Tell me more. Where's that coming from? Because we're all born with a unique ability. We're all born, as I say, being hypnotically connected. And it's society sometimes that turns it off. It's the fear of society and the beliefs that are out there that it's not
judgment.
Possible.
Also, fear of judgment.
Fear of judgment and rejection.
We're coming through the last 2,000 years, which would be, with the advent of Christianity, there was indoctrinations in there for a long time that only special beings could do that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. Well, those people haven't walked the earth in almost 2,000 years. But throughout history, what needs to be recognized that there have been people who are worshipped the earth. We have the Wiccan culture and people who are very much into herbology and aromatherapy and just use things to be in touch. And so the concept of healing has been done without medicine in a lot of different ways.
Yes, for thousands of years.
Right.
I mean, Native Americans honor the earth.
Right.
And take that into consideration. They work with the plants and the animals and all of that.
And the funny thing is now we're going back into into homeopathic remedies, natural remedies. And, and we're finding that those things work.
And they actually do work. So we have a combination of, Western medicine as well as Eastern medicine. And it's just what works for you.
Right. What do you believe in?
What do you believe in? What's going to help you heal in these times when we're going through so many different changes? What about, are there certain foods that we should be eating right now? Somebody was asking me that in session the other day. Or certain types of water we should be drinking or liquids?
No, look, that diet is very personal. And what works for one person doesn't work for another. But in a time where there's a lot of illness, hydrate as much as possible. That's really the key.
Drink your water.
And try to drink less things that are dehydrating. Like for instance, everybody loves to start their morning with a cup of coffee. Mm-hmm. But coffee is actually very dehydrating. So it's better to start with a big glass of water before you have your coffee. Alcohol's dehydrating.
Your sodas are dehydrating. Sometimes your tea, your tea.
And the other thing that weakens the immune system is sugar and processed foods. That's one thing right now that should be out of the diet completely.
Yeah, I was at the grocery store, and so, of course, all of the sweets and all the carbs and all the cookies and donuts and cereals.
All the middle aisles of the store.
All gone.
Right.
All gone. But the salads and the fruits and the vegetables, they were all there. Don't forget all of the frozen stuff that we have. You have everything available to you.
That's correct.
Just remember, this is not going to last forever. Things that are shifting here in our society and on the planet, it's not going to last forever. And if we just take it one step at a time, just one day at a time, and stay in the belief that, we're going to make it through all of this. And this is not the end of the world. It truly is not the end of the world.
Oh,
but you know what? I remember that experience, that story. Orson Welles, I think, where he was on the radio, that radio show a long time ago, back in the 40s.
When he did War of the Worlds.
War of the Worlds. And if you didn't tune in at the beginning of the radio show, it was a show, like a TV show. And you didn't tune in where they said Orson Welles with War of the Worlds. And you came in the middle, you actually heard them in the middle of the story talking about the aliens coming down and we're being invaded and we better run and hide. And everybody in the United States went into a panic because they thought literally the aliens were here. I've been waiting for them, by the way, to come. I've got a flat roof on my house. I mean, you can land anytime you want. But they got confused because they came right in the middle of that show.
Right.
And so many people went into that panic. I also knew somebody who used to work on the show Gilligan's Island. Do you guys remember that show?
Oh, of course.
Gilligan, the skipper, Marianne, Ginger, all of the professor. And he said that on the show, he would get duffel bags full of mail coming from people all around the world, trying to tell them, please go save those castaways, because they thought that show was actually real.
Oh, my God.
And why they weren't sending, I'm not joking, why they weren't sending boats out and ships out, why is the military not, the Navy, go save those people. Duffel bags full of mail, because they thought it was real, because it's on TV. So because it's in the media, sometimes we do believe this is real, this is 100% true, and this is a fact, when it is just information.
Right. I said last night on my show, I said there's times you need to, if you're in hypnosis and watching TV, turn away. Get up, go get a glass of water, go to the bathroom, whatever. Break the spell. Because when people just get hypnotized and just like jaw-dropping watching TV.
Yeah, turn off the TV for a little while. Turn off the TV.
Go play a board game.
Play a board game. Play some cards. Put some nice music on. Put some spa music on, and just kind of relax. Or maybe just turn off all of the lights tonight and put some candles on and just do a little meditation. Really think about who you are, what you want out of your life, what do you want out of this experience, and how you can make each day just, the best day possible. I know it's difficult, but I also know that this is going to bring us to such a heightened level of success, happiness, prosperity, abundance, and wealth. But we may not see it right now, but I know it's coming. So, Nick, tell us how we can get a hold of you and how people can come in and come to your wonderful center.
Absolutely. So we are the Newmont Center in Agora Hills, and you can contact the center at 818-865-8770 or email me at nnewmont@gmail.com. My website is nicknewmont.com. And, of course, or you can friend me on Facebook if you wish. And I do offer a lot of different services, and we have products. We have our own line of aromatherapy that we manufacture. So there's a lot of different things that we do there. So, yeah, but don't be afraid to call and ask questions.
And Mainstream Metaphysics, 8 o'clock on Tuesdays here on LA Talk Radio.
That's right.
His show is absolutely amazing, and we're going to kind of go back to back with a lot of just different topics and so many different types of guests. And then you're going to have us just kind of brainstorming a little bit. So thank you so much for being on the show, Nick.
Thanks for having me as your first guest.
Yay! You're my very first guest with my very first show. This is Hypnotically Connected. I'm Michele Guzy. I'm known as the Mind Coach, and you can reach me on my website, themindcoach.com. You can also contact me at 818-446-MIND, M-I-N-D, and love to give you some information. I also have an MP3 download. Those of you that go ahead and sign up for my updates and the information, it's an MP3 on boosting your immune system, being healthy, staying well, staying calm, and staying balanced in 2020. Thank you so much. We'll see you again Wednesday nights, 8 o'clock, with Hypnotically Connected.
You're listening to Hypnotically Connected with Michele Guzy, only on LA Talk Radio.